coming to get you, Barbara.
Here's some money. Go see a Star War.
But I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd.
Welcome back to Long Walk Talks. My name is Kara Hayes, and I'm an associate producer for Long Walk Productions, here to introduce your host, David Hensley.
Thank you very much, Kara Hayes. I am David Hensley, owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and I am joined today, as always, by my two co-hosts, Stan Wilson Lee.
Hello.
And Chris Wilson Barnes.
What do you want my honesty setting at for this podcast?
100%.
Oh, okay. Well, I should go then.
110%.
And today we are going to be continuing our discussion of the selected filmography of Christopher Nolan. And we're going to be discussing the 2014 film Interstellar. Now, Stan, this is the second time around for the two of us seeing this. But Chris, you saw it for the first time last night, correct?
I did, yes.
What were your general thoughts about the film?
Like I told you earlier today, I think it's a good sci-fi movie with a phenomenal budget.
Okay, that's fair. All right, well, to kick off our discussion here, our first topic is all future farming or all space travel? Would the film work if it had chosen just one? And I ask this because the first time I saw this film, when I saw it in the theater, I spent the first 20, 30 minutes, however long it takes for Coop to get to space, being like...
It's about 46 minutes.
46,
yeah.
Wow. Well, I spent that whole time going, all right, just fucking get to space. This is a movie about space. Let's get to space. But watching it again the other night, I found myself weirdly invested in the Earth plot, like the plight of the future farmer. Mm-hmm. And I found myself thinking, I know where this is going. I know that they are going to space eventually. I could watch a whole movie about this. I really liked the world that Nolan was building. So, Stan, what do you think? Could it have worked if it had gone in just one way or the other?
Like you, I kind of dig, because again, for the second time watching this, I was kind of shook up by where Nolan drops us at the beginning of the movie. It's like you're like just dropped into the situation, and the situation's already happened. You know, it's been like, I don't know how many years, but it's already the future. The bad things have happened to the world, and that's the whole reason for the idea to go to space. And Coop is already considered a failed astronaut and everything, you know, or a disgraced astronaut or something, because he had a crash in his, and so he became a farmer. And so the idea that farmer in a place in a land that no longer is very generous to farmers, you know, and so the idea to set that up, and so again, I was kind of surprised, and then I'm like, oh yeah, we're in the future, and so I think it does need the setup, you know, and so we get the explanation why he's a farmer now, and because we need to know that they find him and that he's chosen to become, you know, the savior of the time or whatever. But I might think that it didn't have to stay at the farm long enough. But like you, I kind of, it's like, this could have been 2/3 of the film, and I would have been okay with it. And then, you know, have a climactic thing of going to space and doing the final, you know, deep impact, save the world type thing. But I liked, you know, and it gave us Casey Affleck, you know. But yeah, I dig both halves a lot.
Chris, what do you think? All future farming or all space travel? Could it have worked?
I don't know. I mean, as weird as the pacing is for it, I think it's about the appropriate amount of time spent on both, because it's like even though it's 46 minutes, it's still like a 2 hour and 48 minute film. So that first bit is just like a super big rush to get to the outer space part, and when it gets there, it slows down to, I guess, to reflect
Really?
the time. It does. It slows down super hard.
I thought it sped up when it got to space.
I don't know what you watched.
Because I thought the first half was...
No, that
was
felt
long.
incredibly rushed. Like it was building super quick to something, and then they were just in space.
It definitely did not seem like 46 minutes to me that they were on Earth, but I wasn't timing it.
No, it was very much like, come on, space.
Yeah. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed all of the Earthbound stuff, which surprised me this go around.
It's interesting because, he does a good job of not spoon feeding you exposition about what the situation is. It's like you are getting, you're in media res, and it's just like as this day unfolds for Coop and his family, you get an idea of what's happening, starting with the fact that he tracks and hijacks an Indian drone plane because he wants to harvest the battery from it to power machines on his farm. Yes. It's like, that's a weird thing to have just happened. Why?
Yeah, the film really does set it up as though like, oh, Coop is going to steal this drone and, reprogram it and send it to outer space or something. And it's like, no, he's stealing parts from it for his farm equipment.
Yeah, and he's talking about how they're still up in the sky. That one had been up in there for at least 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, and you hear that and you're like, what?
Yeah, his son asked him, why did it come down so low now?
Yeah.
It's like, because it's probably at the end of its
It was looking
motor.
for food.
It was looking for food.
The poor thing was hungry. I do really enjoy the Christopher Nolan way of telling you things through dialogue and then moving on without over-explaining too much. Like, it's just casually mentioned in the lines that there are no more militaries anymore. Because everyone, presumably on Earth, is struggling the same struggle. What's the point of fighting each other?
And technology, technology is very much a much rarer commodity at that point. That there is like seeing a drone just come down as a big event. It's like beyond what they need to farm.
And the whole idea that the technology is used to who's going to continue to be farmers. Like, his daughter had, tested well enough to go on to do other stuff, but his son tests to the point where
nope, farmer.
He's a farmer. And we need farmers, so this is not a mark on his abilities or whatever, but it's just we need him here.
Our resources are so limited.
Yes.
He's not at a level where they basically say they're not at a level where they can afford to give resources for him to be anything but a farmer.
Right. It's so interesting to paint a picture of a future world that is so starkly different from every other future world we're painted in movies, or like flying cars and holographic cell phones and lasers. And here we get a vision of the future that is starkly depressing.
Yeah.
I don't think there's nary a cell phone in the entire movie. Definitely not a smartphone.
No. Well, the interesting thing is once he gets to the point where he finds what's left of NASA, you realize it's like, oh, apparently for a little bit we had that kind of future, and then things went downhill.
Yeah. And also for some reason NASA wanted to bomb American citizens.
No, they wanted NASA to bomb citizens, I guess, as a way to drastically reduce the population. Because
I didn't think about that.
Because resources going downhill, they just wanted them to go ahead and wipe out populations so there'd be more resources for the ones left, I guess.
What a depressing future that would be.
A very depressing. And NASA said no when they got disbanded.
Yeah. All right, well, let's just take a minute here to talk about what I dubbed the McConaughey-assance, because this was right there around the time where Matthew McConaughey transitioned from being like a romantic comedy heartthrob to, holy shit, he actually can act.
And you can tell he's trying because of how low he's talking during the very dramatic scenes.
Right. This was in that time when he was doing like Dallas Buyers Club and one of my all-time favorite seasons of television, True Detective, the first season of True Detective.
And The Lincoln Lawyer, which I just like saying because of the alliteration.
Yeah, alliteration is fun.
Or as you said earlier, David, Lincoln Lawyer.
No,
Well,
I just said Lincoln Logs.
Lincoln Logs.
It's funny that it stuck this time because, I mean, earlier in his career, he did A Time to Kill.
Right.
And Dazed and Confused, which
Yeah.
is
Well, I think he tried being a serious actor, realized he could make a metric fuck ton of money by
Fair.
being a
Absolutely fair.
rom-com heartthrob, and then made so much money that he was like, you know what, fuck you, I'm gonna do what I want. All right.
That seems to be the path you have to take a lot of times in Hollywood. Is you have you have to give them the money movies before they'll make, and you have to be a bankable star enough to be like, okay, now I want to leverage that into the stuff I really want to make.
Right.
And he got to, I think he got to the point where he was also over say, you can't tell people you smoke pot. It's like
Or
no,
that you don't wear deodorant.
I like it.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't care if people know that I smoke pot. And so it's like he wasn't going to work with those people that were going to be, you have an image to control. It's like, you got to keep up your image. It's like, no, I want to do what I want to do. And that's why I think True Detective helped a lot, because he got to do the stuff and the type of stuff that he wanted to do. And yes, I agree with you with True Detective. That's one of the great seasons of television ever.
For me, the moment that solidified, like, oh damn, he's really good in this, is once they get back from the water planet and he watches the messages that have accrued over 23 years. Just the long shot of him sitting there and slowly breaking down and then just sobbing is so heartbreaking.
That's after the revelation that because of the time dilation, they were technically down there for about 23 years.
Yep. Like 23 years, 4 months, and 8 days, I think is what they said.
Change to it, yeah.
He, as somebody on TV Tropes pointed out, he finds out that he is a grandfather and that his grandson has died in the space of about 30 seconds.
Yep.
And that, the message from Murph, adult Murph, to him is just so heart-wrenching.
It is.
What a great turn for McConaughey. Not to say that everyone else in the movie isn't great, because there's a lot of award-worthy performances in there. I think it's a shame that this film only got visual effect nominations.
It's on the cover of the copy you loaned me. They won for special effects, and that was it.
Yeah, McConaughey, in my opinion, should have at least been nominated for Best Actor that year.
And he carries the movie. He really does. He's in every scene, right? He's got to be.
The majority.
He's in 90% of it,
yeah,
I'd say.
And he is consistently brilliant through the whole movie.
Even Anne Hathaway, who has to deliver what could have possibly been one of the worst monologues of all time.
Please tell me it's the love monologue.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Oh,
okay,
God.
see, no, you know what my problem with that monologue was? It came after she basically dressed him down for daring to care about people on Earth.
Right.
And then she's like, but I love this man.
Right.
And that's important, love is.
It was pretty horrible, but
She committed to it, though,
She did.
which is admirable.
She did it well, but I was just thinking there the whole time, this character.
And it comes back later when Coop does say she was right. Love is
right.
She was right for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Yeah, basically.
By all accounts, just looking at the cold hard facts, even though those cold hard facts weren't true at all, Man's Planet was the better option if they're looking at it objectively. Turns out, though, should have followed their hearts. Well, should have followed her heart.
Because those cold hard facts took him to a cold
which she
hard
ends
planet.
up doing at the end, right? Isn't that
Well,
this
she doesn't follow. She goes there out of necessity.
Right.
Yeah, it's the only viable option left.
Yeah, only to find out that the poor guy is dead. This film is just one gut punch after the other for all of its main characters. I think the only person who gets by without some kind of slap in the face from life is Topher Grace's character.
That's true.
He still gets punched.
Never mind. He actually does get punched in the face. So yeah, literally and metaphorical face punches for everybody in this film.
And were we introduced to Topher Grace's?
No, it was just out of nowhere.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden she's kissing him, and it's like, Okay, were we introduced to this character?
No, he was just in the
before?
car.
Yeah, he was.
No,
Well, he
he
shows
wasn't
up.
like a
no, no,
kid or
no.
anything
I
before,
know.
was
She offhandedly mentions she knows someone who could come and take a look at their son because of his cough.
Right. He's introduced, though, at the hospital. Well, I don't know if it's at the hospital or if they're in like a special room at NASA headquarters.
Right.
But when Elder Brand,
Yeah.
My Cocaine's character is dying, he's the one. And
Really? I looked away for a second and missed it because the first time I noticed him was in the car, and I was like, oh shit, that's Topher Grace.
True Christopher Nolan style. It's like no exposition, no introduction to this character. Here's like, I guess you could call him an A-list celebrity, introduced walking into frame and going like, he's in here, come on. And honestly, like having watched enough Christopher Nolan movies, I would not have been surprised if that had been it for Topher Grace. He walks on, says he's in here, and then just disappears for the rest of the movie.
do a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah, fuck it. I would do it.
Right?
Yeah.
If that was my only part, sure, I'll do it. All right, our next topic, the changing of the aspect ratios. How noticeable was it? One, how noticeable was it to the two of you?
I didn't.
Really?
All, honestly, when did they change?
Constantly.
Did not notice.
It switched between like 235:1 widescreen and full screen. At times, like every other shot, basically.
I did not notice that. Yeah.
Stan, did you notice?
I may have been at a disadvantage on this because I think I may have seen it because I was watching the IMAX enhanced.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
No, I'm talking wrong, aren't I? Because I did that on the Disney Plus show. So no, for Interstellar, I'm mixing these two up. Interstellar, I was watching it on my because I own the Blu-ray, so whatever the Blu-ray is set up as. So I did.
Is that something that
I don't
mainly
think I
happens on the
noticed.
4K versus the Blu-ray? Because I watched again, I don't have a 4K player, so I watched your Blu-ray.
I might have probably should have researched that before I added it to the discussion because I watched it in 4K.
Okay.
And it was much.
Maybe that was something that specifically happened with the IMAX version.
Okay, yeah. So maybe they took advantage of the 4K format to put like the IMAX footage in there at its like full screen ratio.
I did notice that the difference between the early stuff on Earth, which seemed more square. I think we had more the letterbox idea for the space stuff.
Which would make sense to make space seem bigger.
I did notice that.
Where it really started to not getting to me, but really became noticeable to me is once they get to space, like all of the interiors on the spaceship or any like close up on the characters were in widescreen.
Yes. Okay.
And then when it would cut to exteriors of space or exteriors of the planets that they were on, like all of the establishing shots were in IMAX full screen, but not like in traditional like 4:3 full screen. I mean like not exactly 16:9, but like this
Especially
enormous
on
shots.
Human's planet.
Yes, we'll get to Human.
I don't know honestly, I don't know
We're walking
if
through
it
this
happened or
ice.
if I would have caught it unless you had pointed it out to me.
I kind of want to go home and pop in the Blu-ray to see if it's the same or if it's just on the 4K. That was kind of a dud of a discussion topic
Not
in
really. It's
retrospect.
interesting, but it's interesting to point out that he
Because
messed.
I did not notice it at least I don't remember noticing it when I saw it in the theater. It just became
And-
obvious watching it at home.
I wasn't looking for anything like that, so I didn't have a clear, defined difference in it. So
I didn't put this in the discussion topics, but actually now that we're talking about watching it at home, this is the perfect time to bring it up. This is quite possibly the only time in cinema history of my lifetime where I have been more glad to watch something at home with the subtitles on than I was to see it in the theater.
Yeah.
Because Katie and I went to see this when it came out, and I unfortunately walked away from it just going, okay, well, that's a film that I saw. I was not overly impressed by it. And I think that might have been because it was so fucking hard to understand. This film is really the one where people were like, okay, but seriously, why can't Christopher Nolan do a decent sound mix on his films? Watching it in the theater, even with massive speakers, like Dolby speakers, you could not understand what the fuck anyone was saying. So naturally, when I put it on the other night, I turned on the subtitles, and actually being able to know what people were saying was a game changer for the movie. It's a moot point to say these days to watch it at home, but at home with subtitles on is the way to watch the movie.
And even because I watched it on my living room 32-inch screen, and so I don't have like a sound bar for it or any kind of sound system, so kind of almost mono in the sense that there isn't the overlaying of sound on top. So it was like I didn't even need the subtitles because I only had everything was mixed up front for me, vocally, dialogue wise. So it was, and I think I had the same effect that you did the first time I saw, was that there was a lot of sound, and that covered what was being said, or especially when we get to the Tesseract, all the stuff that's going on and mixing in. So it's like whenever they did a it's lots of stuff swirling. So it's like, but this time when I watched it, it was like, oh, okay, that was clear. It's clear.
Did you watch it with subtitles on, Chris?
Well, yeah, I usually do that as default. Because,
okay.
But I mean, like I knew about the sound things, the sound issues that Christopher Nolan has, and especially The Prestige made it very important for me to have him on. But I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, this film was so fucking weird in regards to the sound mixing, because I remember it was a huge deal. Like, everybody online was talking about it. Like, all the big, entertainment film sites made a big deal out of it, to the point where when you went to the theater to see it, they had signs posted around saying, when the audio drops out, like they basically spoiled a portion of the movie as you're walking in, because it's like, oh, when the sound drops out from the ship explosion, that's on purpose. It's not a problem
right,
with the theater.
It's the vacuum of space, because you're not supposed to hear anything happening. It's the vacuum of space.
Yeah, it's reality is unrealistic.
Right,
the trope,
because most of the time people, they go like most movies just put sound in there because you're expecting to hear it.
Right.
But surprisingly for me, I don't know if the Blu-ray and 4K were remixed in response to it, but this is actually the loudest Blu-ray I've watched on my Blu-ray player to date. Most of the time, when I put one in, I've got to boost the volume super loud. Like normally when I watch TV, or so like YouTube or something on my TV, I can keep it in between like 15 and 20, and it's plenty loud. It's loud enough. When I put a movie in and I switch it over, I've got to boost it up to like 50 or 60. Like most of the Blu-rays I play, they're kind of low for some reason. This one I was able to keep like around 20, and it was like plenty loud. Yeah. I even dropped it down a little bit. But subtitles were absolutely mandatory, because a Nolan protagonist is always a low talker. It wasn't just McConaughey, trying real hard. So he's
Casey Affleck too. Whenever he was
everybody.
It was like he was here.
No, when it was important, when it was serious, everyone was just a lower volume range.
Again, that was Anne Hathaway's entire love monologue was spoken at a very low volume.
Exactly. And what I needed it for was Michael Caine's Revelation speech when he was sick and dying, because everything was like one word, and it was all covered up with his pain.
He had the cadence. I mean, he was dying, but he had the cadence of a speaking spell.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to our next topic, which is every single one of these people who went on this space flight is a much braver person than I am.
Sure, that's part of the call.
Not just, sure, going to space sounds cool. If I were Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, I would 100% take that chance. It was when they started getting into their cryopods, and I looked at like the 3-step process of laying down in a thin, layer of water, then having canvas pulled over you and conforming down to you.
Just going to pre-insert you into your body bag.
Right. And then the lid of the cryotube closing. I was like, no, I'd be out. I would just be awake for the entire 2 years to Saturn, because fuck that.
It has to put you to sleep, because that's a sensory deprivation chamber, and it will drive you nuts.
Yeah. You could not.
Is it Romilly? I think it was.
Yes, or as I like to think of him, Rom the Space Knight. Because that's for the most of the movie, that's what they refer to that character as. Is Rom.
He points out one of the scariest things of a spaceship, where he looks at Coop and goes, millimeters of aluminum and then nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good God!
It's all that's keeping you in there.
During the whole having to dock the ship to the spinning wildly out of control, I don't want to call it the mothership. I don't know what to call the like home base ship. What was the Endeavor? Or the Endurance? It was the Endurance.
Sure.
The whole sequence of him trying to dock to that while it's spinning out of control, Katie was like, how is he not throwing up everywhere?
Because you get tested for that as an astronaut. As a pilot and an astronaut, you're tested to withstand the force of multiple G's.
Because that's the whole.
You have to talk into the microphones, Daniel.
The whole head to the side thing.
Yeah.
You know, and him having to look. You know, it's okay. Is everything happening? Because everything's pushing him backwards.
Right.
And so he was probably wanting to throw up that whole time.
That's why they also have those flight suits that basically cinch so tight they hold your blood in place so it doesn't fly away from your head.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that was a neat maneuver where he matched the spin of the ship so that they could basically sync up and dock.
Yeah, that was a great sequence because just enough time had passed to where I didn't remember, honestly, a whole lot about the plot of this movie. But there was a time when I was wondering if the movie had possibly blown its load too early on the whole sequence where Man is attacking Cooper, and that's intercut with the exploding Kip, and how great the score is at that time. Like that almost seems like it should have been the climax of the movie. And having not remembered much past that, I was like, did it really just blow its climax here with still an hour to go? And then no, once it gets to the having to dock the ship, I was like, oh, this is fucking great.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point was, no, you're if that's what it takes, you're not getting me into fucking space. If I have to lay down and be entombed,
but
no, thank you.
You've probably done it 55 times in training, and done.
Oh, I understand that, but I wouldn't have done it once in training.
See, I wouldn't mind it. The water, laying in the water for 2 years may have pissed me off for a little bit. But
I noticed based on who all was going, Coop had to be there because he was the archetype of the early astronauts, the space cowboys, who were just They were that level of getting it done quick, getting it done not in the cleanest way, but getting it done the dirtiest way, just so it gets done
and manually.
Yeah,
and manually, and yeah, as they point out, of everyone who goes on this journey, he is the only one that's actually done it live and not in a simulation.
Right.
Yeah. You're not getting me in a spaceship now. All right, so next, I want to talk about the best side characters / actors in the movie.
Sure.
Because as I was telling Stan a while ago, I remembered only 3 people in this movie. Yeah. I remembered Anne Hathaway, I remembered Matthew McConaughey, and I don't know why, but I remembered Casey Affleck. Did not remember Mike Cocaine.
Casey Affleck was adult.
Tom.
Adult. Okay, yeah, he was one of my favorites.
Yeah, did not remember him. Did not remember Bryce Dallas Howard or Michael Caine or John Lithgow.
Bryce Dallas Howard?
I'm sorry, Jessica Chastain. They're the same fucking person. They are the same. You can't convince me that Bryce Dallas Howard and Jessica Chastain aren't the same person.
I agree.
But yeah, so of the A-list cast in this movie, Stan, who stood out to you as the best side character?
I really like Topher Grace in this, but my favorite probably Ram. I liked Ram, but you're saying A-list, so
I mean, not necessarily all A-list, but of the side characters.
I I have to agree with Chris. I really enjoyed Casey Affleck in this. I think this was one of his best things. And most of his stuff was sitting at a video screen talking to stuff. Then we finally get to see him driving around in a truck or fighting a fire and stuff. But the idea that
Talking growly the entire time.
yes, and his whole estrangement with Jessica Chastain's character, and Jessica Chastain I thought was really, 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 really great. Especially her reaction to Michael Caine's revelation of what this was really
I'm
about.
so glad that caught on.
And that's Michael Caine, by the way. Just
They
Yeah, that's
know.
what I said.
They know. You've
in
just been saying his
in case
name
you're
the whole
a first
time.
time listener. But I really like Casey Affleck. I really liked Topher Grace. I really liked I said Rom, especially when we first meet Rom, when
Why do you sound like you're dying?
I don't know, when Coop first enters
You sound like Tom when he got back from fighting that
NASA.
fire in the cornfield.
and meets the group or whatever for the first time. So Rom's first appearance in that group, he's like the voice of reason, and he's really great in that. And I don't even know the actor's name, but that sucks. It was a pretty damn good supporting cast.
Yeah.
All around. And Matt Damon's really, really good.
Yes.
And I guess it's considered a cameo, but it's a little more than a cameo. But the thing is, he's really, really great, and he's the heavy in this.
Yeah.
He's the heavy in this.
Chris, what do you think?
Well, like I said, I really enjoyed Casey Affleck as adult Tom. You really get a good glimpse of Tom having to grow up without his dad and trying his best to just get by in a world that is still dying, and he's doing all he knows basically. And you get that, especially that scene where he has to say goodbye, where basically his wife is like, I don't know, I don't think these messages are getting to you, so I'm just gonna have to say goodbye. Really sad.
Casey Affleck, I think, has one of the best show don't tell moments, because early on in the film, Coop is talking to his father-in-law, John Lithgow's character, about how all the farmers around here, they are always saying next year, everything will come up great. And at one point early after we're introduced to adult Tom, he literally says something to one of the other farmers like, "Oh, well, it'll be better next year." And it's just such a great callback. Yeah, I got to agree with Stan. Matt Damon steals the show.
Not for me.
No?
No, because my best all-rounders are Tars and Case.
Yeah.
The robot buddies.
Yes.
Yes, I want one.
Yeah, since it's NASA operating in secret, they still have access to some of the high-level technology, and that includes the basically almost fully sapient AIs that they have running around that run the security and do like the groundwork and help run the ship. And TARS in particular is a military-grade robot in this future, and they have really good personalities. I love that, and also on top of that, the way they move is kind of terrifying because it's a bit alien because of how they designed these things to move.
Yeah, it's like they took 4 rectangles and bolted them together.
And we're remiss. John Lithgow is really great in this.
Yeah.
And he plays the mother figure for the most part in this. And the kids in this movie is
A young Timothy Chalamet playing young
That
Tom.
is-
I think this counts as the
Chalamet,
first thing
okay.
I've ever watched him in because I didn't realize that was him until I checked the cast.
I
It is
didn't
Timothy
either.
Chalamet. I was wondering.
Yeah, watching the movie made me really want a robot buddy. Because, like you said, Tars and Case are both great. I really wish I knew what those stand for because, like we said earlier today, they have to be acronyms for something. I just have not been able to see what they are acronyms
That's
for.
on
They did
NASA
say
in
something for
particular
TARS,
works.
but I can't remember what they said it was. TARS was.
And I love the way they integrate the robots into the technology. Like every time you see the two of them like interacting with the spaceship, they just blend seamlessly into it. But yeah, Matt Damon gives such a nuanced performance as like he is the closest thing the movie has to an antagonist, unless you count like nature itself.
Well, so and Dr. Brand. You know, it was funny. They did a weird misdirect with Murph's message after Dr. Brand dies, because it's playing as they go to the planet, and Tars is watching it, and you think, oh, what is this gonna do? But later the video plays, and it's just.
Yeah, I love. Again, we could just talk about the robots for the rest of the
Yeah.
podcast, and I'd be good with it. The fact that they don't inevitably turn out to be evil,
Right.
like most AI robots in future movies do. Yeah, they frame it, and again, having enough time having passed where I didn't remember a whole lot, when you see the shot of Tars watching Murph's video, it's like, oh shit, is he going
Is
to...
that Tars or Case? I thought it was Case. sending
One
it
of the
to
two.
Tars.
It's one of the two. I assumed it was Tars because it was upright. Case isn't really super upright for most of the movie.
I honestly couldn't tell you the difference between the two of them. That might be racist to robots, but like, yeah, it's framed the way a future movie would typically see, like, oh, it's going to suppress the message, or it's going to edit the message to sell some self-serving way.
The alien android.
I thought initially it was going to cut off right before Murph goes, "Did you know?"
Right.
Me too.
But no, turns out that, yeah, they are really just benevolent, friendly AIs.
And but you end up seeing that video twice so that the main characters can see it, and Dr. Mann can confirm that the plan was never to get everyone off Earth.
I think it's such a great writing that on the one hand you're like, oh, you sons of bitches, for both him and Brand, adult, like Michael Caine Brand. But at the same time, it's like, well, you're not wrong. Brand, I should say more so, like, yeah, he kind of knew that his plan A was never going to work.
Right.
Plan B was like, you have to make a hard choice. It's hard not to sympathize with man, though, having been marooned on an alien planet with 67-hour days and 67-hour nights for 20 years to not go a little bit insane.
Yeah, you see the breakdown coming.
Yeah, a special mention has to go to when they wake man up, and he sits up and looks at Coop and immediately starts crying and hugging him.
Yeah.
That was such a great performance from Matt Damon.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
I thought so too.
So 2 points for Matt Damon, but also points for the robot buddies. All right. Well, we've already sort of been going down this route anyway, but our last discussion topic, unless either of you have anything you want to bring up, is the character of Man.
It turns out
Dr.
the real villain
Man.
is Man.
Yeah, Man was the villain. Dr. Man. Dr. Hugh Man. You are never told his first name in the movie itself. Apparently, it's only in the script and in the novelization that they published. But
That
Matt
was something
Damon,
for Christopher and his brother to giggle over in the script.
and high five.
Yeah.
When I was reading through the TV tropes page and I saw that his name was Hugh Man, I was like, you gotta be fucking shitting
I
me.
refuse to believe they didn't steal that joke from Futurama.
Well, I refuse to believe that somewhere along the line there wasn't a discussion of like, well, we have to name him Man because this is one small step for man, but one huge leap for humanity. Huh? And somebody else went, well, if we're going to name him Dr. Man, why not name him Dr. Hugh Man?
And there's a pause, and they stare, and they laugh and go, write it down.
Yeah, and they jump up in the air and they high five and then they freeze frame it.
No.
Yeah.
Chest bump.
No.
He's
no.
English. They don't
They don't chest
unless
bump
they're
it
watching football.
Yeah, no, if they chest bumped, they might spill their tea.
True that. Wow.
The monocles might pop off.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
It would be too much.
Wow.
Yeah, I would have been remiss to not bring up one of the worst names in movie history for such a great character and for such a great actor to play that character. I cannot get over Dr. Hugh Man.
Matt Damon. Played by Matt Damon.
We spent a long time gushing over Hugh Man, though.
Again, there's no way that didn't come from Futurama.
Yeah,
I know,
for those of
I
you,
know exactly what episode.
yeah, for any listeners who don't know the episode that you're referencing, do you want to give a quick recap of where that turns out it was man joke?
Well, that's from their hilariously terse satire or parody of Twilight Zone called The Scary Door, where there's a short bit where a scientist is just combines like, I'll combine all the most evil things from nature and turn it into the ultimate monster, and it's basically just like a 15-second version of an actual Twilight Zone episode, because the door to the whatever chamber he's working in opens, and his creation steps through, and it just goes, turns out it's man.
Yeah, it's just like a naked human who says that line.
And the human thing I'm saying is also it's from the episode where Zoidberg is put on trial for eating the Earth flag.
Oh, that's right.
And then his species invade because he's found guilty, and one of the spies on one of the Earth ships who steals secrets is Zap Brannigan turns to him and goes, "What's your name, soldier?" He goes, "Man, Hugh Man." Hugh Man. Now that's a name you can trust.
Yeah. God, Dr. Hugh, man. I still can't. Whatever. Let's move on. Chris, did you have any thoughts or anything you wanted to discuss about the film?
Well, I just wanted to expand on my opening thought, which is when I said it's a good sci-fi story with a phenomenal budget, that's basically what I mean. It's just like, I'm not saying it's like a bad movie. I'm just saying it's like I've seen a lot of sci-fi similar to this. It just had the budget to really show you what it was trying to get across, and it did it well. So I'm not running down the movie at all. I think it was a good movie. Probably won't watch it again, but
that's fair. It'll probably be a minute before I watch it again too.
You got to commit.
It's a heavy film, and you have to be in the mood for it.
It's a heavy film, and you got to commit because that's almost 3 hours right there.
Yeah, you either have to be in the mood for it, or you have to be recording a podcast about it in 2 days. Stan, any final thoughts or anything that you want to discuss about it?
I want to do a shout out to Hans Zimmer. I think that's one of his best scores and compositions that he's done, and that includes the Dark Knight trilogy and everything. I think just the fact that the ending credits is just basically him plunking keyboard keys or piano keys and then layering them on top of each other, and it's a fantastic bit.
I'm sorry, I just thought of Hans Zimmer just sitting in his studio just doing that, looking at the clock. It's like 3 minutes to 5,
and then he high-fived himself. Because he doesn't have anybody to high-five with. But
that's sad.
That, and then his use of, when we get to space, him taking the sound out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's responsible for that or if that's like.
Well, no, that would have been the sound mixer or the sound editor.
But he had to have something because you would have the score going on along with whatever a regular sound mix, and then we get into actual space in the vacuum, and it just disappears. So his control of that, I thought was great. But I think that's one of his best scores ever.
I also appreciate Nolan's ability to make a movie like this where things are bleak and they get bleaker, and instead of doing what I think is honestly the easier thing to do and just be like, well, everything's fucked, good night, he finds a way to earn a happy ending out of it.
Yeah, especially because from what I've read, earlier drafts of the script ended just with Coop and Tars being stuck in the black hole. Like, they communicate everything that they need to Murph in the past or future concurrently. I don't fucking know.
He existed outside of time at that point.
Yeah, exactly. They communicated everything they needed to her, and it's like, well, we're stuck in a black hole. The end, which would have been more depressing than everything else in the movie had been up to that point. But it is a very optimistic, very hopeful ending, and I also appreciated that.
Earth isn't saved, but they get people off Earth.
Yes,
they get people off Earth, and my question is,
they made Plan A work, basically.
They made Plan A work, and that's my question is like, is Plan B being done on the planet that Anne Hathaway's character is on at the end? Is that
presumably? Okay. Yeah, she's there to incubate those embryos. and basically restart. See, this is the this is the way I headcanoned the time travel aspect of the movie. Like, who are the future humans that sent back the black hole?
That's what I was going to ask next. Yeah.
Who is communicating and creating the Tesseract? The only explanation, in my opinion, that makes sense is outside of Brand and Cooper and the other astronauts. At some point, somebody on Earth had the idea of sending embryos to a viable, livable planet, and those embryos then became like the future humans that grew beyond time and space and were able to manipulate the past, probably to avoid the situation that they found themselves in.
Because there was something said while they're in the Tesseract. Cooper comes to the realization that those beings, are you and me, TARS. So it's like...
he never says specifically you and me, but he does say...
us.
Yeah, he says they're us.
They're us.
And TARS calls them the bulk beings, which I don't know what that means or where that came from, but that's what he refers to the future humans as.
Because that's what I was... Is those future humans, is the black hole actually kind of like their livable space, and that's how they're able to do the Tesseract, and then
I think they're just using their knowledge of the black hole to manipulate it.
See, that's because if we continue on the logic of, they're us, does that mean when TARS and Coop go back to see Dr. Rand on the new planet, are they going to end up getting lost in the hole again so they can repeat it? Or
no, the black hole is
is there another group of future humans that have done it?
I mean, with the way the time dilation works, I think it's possible that Coop and TARS might come out on the other side of the black hole and discover that Brand has already incubated those embryos and might have already started a civilization.
Okay. And
or because of the time dilation, it's possible that they might arrive like right after she got there. I am not a physicist at all, so the concept of time dilation...
And they never went into how it was different for that planet. So it's...
Right.
They're going to get to her at some point where it's happening.
Yeah. And my final thought on the movie before we wrap up is... I love everything about this movie except for the fact that I found myself doing math during it, and I was mad about
I was
it.
told there'd be no math.
Oh, there's a lot of math in this.
There's a lot of like real and theoretical
Yes.
math being done in the movie proper. But I was watching it trying to keep track of how much time was passing, and especially when it gets to adult Murph's message where she tells him that they're the same age now, I was like, oh fuck, all right, how much time has passed? Before they leave the planet, Coop explicitly says that Murph is 10 years old.
Yes.
And then it takes them 2 years to get from Earth to the ring of Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
And then they travel through the black hole. They're on the water planet for 23 years. So I was like...
Because every hour is 7 years down there.
Yes.
Yeah. So altogether, they go through 25 years, so which would have made Murph 35, which would have mean Cooper was 35 years old at the beginning of the movie and also 35 at the end of the movie. And that, like, doing that, the mental gymnastics to get there in my head also just made me realize what is the actual, like, beyond the 90-ish, give or take, years that the plot takes place over, what is that like for Cooper and Brand? Because they get in a spaceship one day, they fly up to Earth's atmosphere, they go down for cryosleep for 2 years. Mm. To them, that's like an 8-hour sleep. Then they go through a black hole. They spend a few hours on a planet that turns out to be 23 years. They go to another planet. Conceivably, for them, the entire plot takes place, like once they get to space, over 2 or 3 days, it seems like.
Sure, yeah, because, again, for them, it's very disorienting because things around them are taking leaps in age that their brain can't kind of comprehend.
Yeah, again, why you're not getting me in a spaceship and not sending me through a black hole.
Well, don't worry. I mean, in this context, I mean, you can just let them do that, and then you can just reap the benefits.
Yeah, basically. All right, well, that is our discussion about Interstellar. And before we wrap up, I want to announce what we are going to be doing next year in 2022. I'm springing this on the two of you and the listeners as well, because I've been thinking, like, all right, I really like the format that we've kind of established. Because in 2020, we spent the whole year talking about the films of Tarantino, much to Chris's chagrin. This year, we spent the first 6 months talking about the View Askew universe from Kevin Smith. We're spending the last half of the year talking about Christopher Nolan, and we're going to wrap up that discussion next month with the movie Tenet. I was trying to decide if I wanted to do another theme next year. I wanted to pick a director or pick two contrasting directors.
Can we pick directors?
Yes, you can. Because what we're going to do next year is each one of us is going to pick 4 perfect films, we consider like perfect films.
Okay.
And
All
next month when we do the Tenet episode, we're going to randomly pick which order we go in. So we'll basically, one of us will have 4 months, then the next will have 4 months, and then we'll finish it off. But each month we're going to be discussing somebody's pick for a perfect film.
Okay.
So that's going to be our theme for 2022. By the way, we're only a few weeks from 2022. How the fuck did that happen? But anyway.
Well, time dilated.
No shit.
It actually did, if you think about it.
All right. So I know it's been a minute since we've had a new episode of this show. Hopefully we'll start getting them out a little faster. Again, if there are any audio issues that you've noticed, if we're lower than usual or more echoey than usual, Long Walk Productions is now in a new recording space. And we're in a very large open area. We don't have our recording booth built yet. So it might be a minute before we get back to our old audio quality, and I apologize for that. But in December, we're going to continue we're going to wrap up our Nolan discussion with the film Tenet. But this weekend, you will be able to hear Chris Barnes and David Two Dogs Hayes from This Is a
those
Work.
Jerks.
I know, those assholes. Discussing AEW
Hey, hold on.
Full Gear?
It was Full Gear, yeah.
Yeah, last weekend's AEW pay-per-view Full Gear. And then also this weekend is the next WWE pay-per-view.
I know. And if you're surprised by that, man, it's mostly because WWE seems like they forgot about it too.
What is this one, Survivor Series?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So you've got 2 episodes of This Is a Work coming out within a week of each other, the AEW Full Gear episode and WWE Survivor Series. And I have no idea what the state of NXT is. Hopefully we'll continue doing more episodes of This Is a Takeover. And hopefully I can get Katie over here at some time so that we can do another Long Walk Teeny Talk.
We should, I know scheduling being what it is, we should, I like doing the movie discussions, so we should swap over to something else every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just because of the way our schedules, mainly my schedule has worked out.
It's easiest to just get together every few weeks and do a movie, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to get back to doing one episode a month that is a theme discussion and then a second episode that is an off-topic, like random episode where we discuss TV shows, video games,
books,
other forms of media other than movies. So hopefully, once my schedule chills out a little bit, which it should after this weekend.
What a bastard.
I know. Well, we all went from, I guess, went from having nothing to do in 2020 to actually having a whole bunch of shit to do, which has been both really nice and also a curse.
Yes.
So, Stan, I already know what the answer to this is going to be, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If people want to follow you online, where can they do
Twitter.
that at? Really, Stan? What's your Twitter handle?
At Stan the Man 1469.
Okay.
One, that's probably too many characters. 2, I hope the person who actually probably has that handle isn't suddenly ambushed.
I hope they are. Obviously, that was...
I don't have a Twitter.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, that was a lie.
But he doesn't mind starting Twitter beef.
Yeah. Chris, if people want to follow you or reach out to you online, where can they do that at?
I mean, I don't recommend it, but it's at Chris the OK. Sure.
Okay. And
Hashtag.
if you want to reach out to me online or follow me online, you can do that on Instagram at DBHensley. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us, or you can search for Long Walk Productions and Long Walk Podcasts on Facebook. We also have a whole bunch of Twitter and Instagram handles that I still haven't written down. Sorry about that, Shelby.
No. Do I need to look them up real quick?
No, you just search for Long Walk Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find us. You can also find the podcast, the Instagram handles for this work, and this is a takeover as well.
I recommend, if you're on Twitter, following an account called Shoebill every hour. They post pictures of the shoebill bird, which is a terrifying dinosaur bird. It's amazing and hilarious to look at.
Fantastic.
Yes.
We are not sponsored by Shoebills.
I mean, you wouldn't.
We should
wanna
be, but
supposedly they're pretty chill birds. They just look terrifying and mean.
nice. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. As always, thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show or any of the shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you are listening on.
Peace out.